بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السادة والسيدات الحضور، يسعدني أن نبدأ معكم الجلسة الثانية من الملتقى الوطني لاستدامة المنشآت العائلية. هذه الجلسة سوف يكون محورها أهمية العمل المؤسسي واستدامة المنشآت العائلية. بداية وقبل أن نتوجه إلى الضيوف المتحدثين، سوف نستمع لكلمة راعي الملتقى معالي وزير التجارة الدكتور ماجد بن عبد الله القصبي. شكراً لمعالي الوزير على هذه الكلمة. والآن ننتقل إلى كلمة رئيس مجلس إدارة المركز الوطني للمنشآت العائلية معالي الدكتور بسان السليمان. نشكر رئيس مجلس إدارة المركز الوطني للمنشآت العائلية معالي الدكتور غسان السليمان على هذه الكلمة. والآن سوف أعطي الميكروفون والكاميرا للدكتورة هنوف خضير لتقدم ضيفنا في هذه الجلسة بعنوان أهمية العمل المؤسسي في استدامة المنشآت العائلية. تفضل يا دكتورة. الصوت يا دكتورة بس تسوي انميوت. تفضل يا دكتورة. شكرا.
مرحبا، شكرا استاذ طلال، ما قصرت. I'm so sorry I forgot to unmute. آسفة يعني. أهلا وسهلا، حابة أرحب فيكم جميعا ومساء الخير لكم ولحضورنا الكريم. أنا دكتورة هنوف خضير، باحثة ومستشارة في مجال شركات العائلية. يسعدني أكون ضيفتكم أو يعني مضيفتكم في هذه الجلسة اليوم. عنوان جلستنا هو العمل المؤسسي وأهميته لاستدامة المنشآت العائلية. طبعا ما يخفى علينا جميعا أهمية العمل المؤسسي للمنشآت بشكل عام، سواء كانت عائلية أو لا، خصوصا بعد ما تتخطى المنشآت مرحلة معينة أو حجم معين وتكبر وتتعقد إدارتها وملكيتها ويعني عملياتها، فيصبح العمل المؤسسي أمر يعني مهم جدا للاستدامة. طبعا احنا محظوظين اليوم بوجود ضيف مهم ورائد من رواد العمل العائلي المؤسسي، الأستاذ محمد العقيل، اللي هو راح ياخذنا خلال رحلة ملهمة صراحة للكثير منا في تحويل عملهم العائلي من يعني عمل يدار بشكل تقليدي إلى شركة رائدة تدار حسب يعني أفضل الممارسات والأنظمة المؤسساتية بشكل جدا جيد. حابة أشارككم بعض النقاط قبل ما يعني ندخل في باقي الجلسة. جلستنا اليوم تقريبا مدتها 90 دقيقة. راح نبدأ بتقديم ضيوفنا والمتحدثين في هذه الجلسة، بعدين راح نمر يعني بشكل بسيط على مفهوم الاستدامة وأهميته يعني المنشآت بشكل عام والمنشآت العائلية بشكل خاص، يحدثنا فيه الأستاذ طلال العجلان. بعد كذا بنترك المجال للأستاذ محمد العقيل يشرح لنا ويعني ياخذنا معاه في هذيك الرحلة اللي هي كانت طويلة ولكن مثمرة جدا في مجال عملهم العائلي، على أساس نتعلم منها أهم المحطات وأهم الدروس ويستفيد الجميع من هذه التجربة الرائدة. طبعا حيكون بعد كذا إن شاء الله حيكون عندنا حلقة نقاش نسأل فيها الأستاذ محمد ونحاول نفهم منه أكثر يعني عن بعض الأمور اللي لفتت انتباهنا في تجربتهم. أكيد ما راح نختم قبل ما يكون في جزء لأسئلة الجمهور.
Before we conclude, we should have the audience Q&A in which we'll try to answer the audience questions. So we hope that during this session, you will be writing your questions in the chat and we will try to cover as much as possible of those questions. Now I will welcome our speakers. We have Mr. محمد العقيل. He's the chairman of Jrير Investment and Jrير Marketing, and we have Mr. طلال العجلان, and Mr. Muhammad has wide experience in corporate work, and he's played a major role in establishing Jrير for marketing and the Jrير Library Group, Jrير Bookstore Group since the 90s until now, being under the leadership of him and his brothers. It's a valuable company with a higher value than 1 billion, I guess, dollars. Yes. As well, he has had a large role in creating Jrير Investment, which was the family business. It's a great company in corporate work. Mr. Muhammad, as we know, he's passionate about incorporating family and governing that, and he's played a major role in guiding the new generation in his family or in their family to be ready to manage the rights and ownership rights. So we are very happy to have him today. Thank you for joining, Mr. Muhammad. Also, I would like to introduce Mr. طلال العجلان. He is the CEO at the National Center for Family Businesses. Before he became in this position, he was the deputy manager for the HRDF, and he is also he has been in positions in leadership in the private and public sector. He has more than 14 years in the banking sector. He worked in managing fortunes and treasuries. Before Mr. Muhammad takes us in his journey, I would like to ask Mr. Talal to talk to us simply about the concept of sustainability and what sustainability means, because this conference is entitled Sustainability, but we would like to know, what does sustainability mean? What are the pillars for sustainability, and how important it is for businesses in general? Now I give you the floor, Mr. Talal. Thank you, Doctor, for this beautiful introduction. And I would also like to welcome Mr. محمد العقيل and state that we're glad to have such persons such as Abu Karim with us today to talk to us about the journey of the development in Al-Aqil company as well as Jarir. I believe those will provide us with a very valuable model for the concept of sustainability. In the beginning, I would like to talk about a broader concept which emerged as a common term in the private sector years ago, but in the recent years, it became an important topic that leadership in Saudi Arabia has taken the concept of sustainability into its concerned topics. Even this conference that we're having today, this conference that we're holding, is an initiative that aims to enhance the sustainability and performance of businesses, particularly family businesses. It's linked to a strategic goal which is included in the Saudi vision. This strategic goal is the sustainability of the private sector. I will not go into much detail, but we have many aspects under the umbrella of sustainability. People look at sustainability mainly on three aspects: human, financial, and environmental sustainability. Looking at the nature of family businesses and the challenges they have, we also have some other aspects of sustainability in family businesses. Sustainability in family businesses have been able to continue and to grow, and hopefully to achieve the main pillars of sustainability in the human element, in the passing from generation to another, the assignment of authority, the executive management. All those relate to the sustainability of the human element within the institution. We also have the financial sustainability, financial sustainability, the environmental sustainability, how the environmental sustainability contributes to conserving the environment and its resources. We always say that family businesses are a model not only for financial sustainability, but also for social sustainability. They contribute, no matter how different or how various they are, they contribute to those goals. In terms of the third element, which is financial sustainability, perhaps in the lately we have had an experience with Corona, and we've had a lot of companies, family businesses and non-family businesses. Those have faced the challenge of not having financial sustainability and could not cope up with the Corona, with the COVID crisis. Some companies have gone bankrupt in all the parts of the world. I will not take more than I have taken. Now we will move to Mr. Muhammad and Dr. Hanouf. You can have your word, and if there are any questions, we can answer them later. Thank you very much.
First of all, thank you ever so much for His Excellency Minister, and also for Mr. Talal discussion for this great conference, and I hope that it will come in different editions over the coming years. Thank you ever so much. Again, I one of the 5 partners, and I don't work more than they do, but we always have meetings and we always work equally. I'd like to speak about experience and how to make it more sustainable. It is very important to reduce risks and also to prepare, develop contracts, and also participate and engage the coming generation. I was like training myself how to make kind of a speech or deliver the speech in order to avoid any mistakes, how to convey the information, and how to participate with good level of skills so that so many people can benefit from this. First of all, this presentation is not just about Jarier bookstore, but it has like different mindset or different way of thinking, like how to manage and reduce the risks based on the family business. And also I noticed some parts should be highlighted, like started from last week, and I found that some images that are very old take us back to the beginning, so that I need you to live the experience with my plan coming into play. And the generation now say that it is so easy, but I'd like to walk you through my experience, and there will be like more slides full of images that might be like too familial or very much family related, but the purpose of which is just to share you, to make you live in the experience. We have sustainability of the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th generations. So we are one of the big companies that we are working hand in hand to make it more sustainable as institutional. So if you know, at the beginning, it was like the company, the founder, and by time it grew by large and large, of course, as the segment, then like as very much like a family. Children, for example, start like their lives little. Also, we started like at the beginning, it was like 35 years old. And later, of course, by time we have like grown up, and like some grown up into their 60s, other 40s, 50s. And this is what is illustrated and demonstrated in our own success story. And we need to discover at that time, like to discover more the risks, the opportunities, the threats, and the weaknesses, the strengths. And also there are other points I would like to share with you. If you look at these images, this is Jarier bookstore that goes back to 1978. And this is one of the cashiers. You see, it was so simple, and it very much like a shop or a bookshop or a bookstore or a supermarket or a mini supermarket. This is another one. These are 2 people, Abdul Karim and Abu Abdullah. This is the first time we started our job. These are our offices when we first started. This is like the new model of Jarier back. It goes back to 1980. One of us was in the secondary school and the other one was in the university. So like it shows us or it showed you where and how we started and how we started like thinking. This is a 3rd image, and it shows you one of the partners in like preparing Jarier bookstore, the new one. Of course, he is the one managing the Jarier bookstore, and he is controlling almost everything. And this is, of course, he just left the university to manage and run the business himself. This is, of course, as you see, the image of the whole family. This is the father, my father, rest in peace. He passed away 2 months after we opened the bookstore of Jarier. This is one more. This is the model that we designed for the bookstore, Jarier bookstore. The square was 1,200 meters first, and it has seen successful feedback. It has received successful feedback. And if you look at the way the cars are designed, so it takes you back into many years into the past. One more slide. Here it shows us the first partner who was engaged in Jarier bookstore, me and Abdul Karim, the one you've seen in the previous slide. Of course, he is the CEO of the company, but also he is now more experienced, more expertise, and also this is, of course, this is the final model of Jarier bookstore, is to see as is now that we've seen today. And sometimes you see that the designer can be excellent. So he is the one, I mean, the designer has designed for about this design or this building for about 24 years and has gained one of the most important American awards ever since he graduated. The next one, please. This is, as you see, the little child you've seen. He is now the manager or the director of Jarier bookstore. He is the director of a big company, Bill Gates, as you see, and one of the biggest companies that we deal with in Jarier bookstore. You see, now you've seen he was just like a little child, and now he is now the CEO of Jarier bookstore. You know that this is what you used to have here in this image. We start thinking of the risks as early as we could, and the risks like children, males and females, and the families, the wives. So we thought of it was the first time for us to think of the next generation or the second generation, and we have taken them like into different, we have taken this business into different areas. That was in 1996. We have taken them to consultancy companies, to factories, even when they were little children, like or even like they were teenagers. So we have taken them to different places. So these are components, key components of the journey. In order for us to have sustainability, we need to have the company successful. To make it successful, it needs to be sustainable. As you know, with commerce or the trade growing and the family members are growingly increasing and developing, things become like more complicated or complex. Number 3, what is it that the leadership wants to use the resources or the wealth or the rich networks? First of all, for example, to increase the level of entertainment or fun or joy, and also to increase the charities, I mean the non-profit activities, and also to make it increasingly growing. Or some other people like need a hybrid, a mix of both charities and non-profit, and doing more business or fun and entertainment. So objectives can be diverse, can be different. So we can't make objectives or our objectives in one go. We need to be diverse, as you know, but we need to be focused at the same time. So it is very important that we need to focus, like, for example, is it 20% or 30% for charities or for doing business or entertainment or fun? So it depends from one family to another. One of the most important thing is the consultancy or advisory and the training of the next generation through research, studies, training workshops or training programs, on-the-job training, like summer training or winter training. So coaching and the training can be provided through different channels or avenues. And after they spend some good time, of course, they can gain more knowledge and more subject matter. Number 5, for sustainability purposes, there is something that we cannot control well enough, or we can control but partially. It depends on the nature of the family. Like some family members want to do business equally important or equally in terms of the success, and some others, for example, like the issue ended up in courts. So it is very important to have one homogeneous kind of support. So this is something that we can hardly control. Even like before they do business, some other family members, you see them that they have almost always quarrels, or it has to do with the DNA of the family nature, of course. So the DNA of the family nature plays such a vital role, or either they work individually or collectively. It has to do a lot with the sustainability, of course. Number 6. So when you start doing business, you have an option. Like, for instance, after I have opened this bookshop or bookstore, I don't have to have more headache for the next generation. So if he or she does not prepare well for sustainability, of course, you cannot work deeply. So when you are, for example, when he or she is 30 years old and you have not yet provided training for them, you can hardly have him coping up with you or to manage sustainability. And at the same time, you have other tools to make business more sustainable through other businesses or other consultancy businesses and companies, which of course can help your business to grow and burgeon and grow more and more. So early preparation, early development, early training is very important. We move on to the next slide. This is, no, not that one. Yeah, please. Here, I'd like to walk you through our journey, or segment of the journey, because it's very important and there are important points that you have to focus on. We started in 1980, and I was like an electronic engineer, and my brothers, you've seen in the images, one was in the university, one was in the secondary, and some others were like under 10, or others were in the States. So we left the engineering, I mean, as a discipline or a major in the university, and we start thinking in a kind of a different business line. It was for us a boom, economic boom at that time, of course, and I myself did benefit from that one. Then I started working with my brothers, and I thought that opening Jari bookstore is something good. Like, we didn't have a lot of books, just like 50 books, but again, at the same time, we have the main skeleton, which is the Arabic books. Of course, we started the test in 1985. My father passed away like a heart attack. So it was for us a kind of test, whether we work in tandem or in unison, or we in concert, or just we work like individually. And it was, we passed, of course, the test. And for us, of course, and we went through this year without any negative impact on the business or the partnership. If one in 1987, one of my partners or brother decided to leave the business, and that was okay. 1991, of course, over the 10-year span of time, we started, of course, developing more and more. I mean, developing and the investments. So we started investing in Jari bookstore, and I moved, of course, myself into Jari bookstore investment, and we started thinking of where and how to increase our investments, like sometimes real estate, some other times industry, some other times contracting or construction. And I discovered centers for business, for family businesses across the world. In the States, for instance, there are 2 associations, or there were 2 associations. and I did attend some conferences on family businesses. Me and my brother, of course, used to attend such kind of conferences at least like over the 10 or 12 years. Every time for us when we went to the States, we did benefit a lot. For example, we did ask them, what is it that you do for the family business, and how do you improve, and how do you continue, how do you maintain your sustainability? And some other businesses, of course, they gained more certificates. So for us, it was so successful, so beneficial, so helpful for us, and so productive. Over the 6 or 5 to 6 years, of course, I gained more information, more data, but later, of course, these percentage was more and more, and it was like more than 10%. Of course, this is a group of conferences or forums of events like on family businesses and how we developed our businesses. And it was so great for all our partners or brothers. And we started thinking early of the second generations, for example, what is it that they will do and what values they will add to the company or the family business, how they can work with each other, for example, their capabilities and capabilities. As you've seen, we started, that was in end of 1990s. We went through different stages of Jarier bookstore. We have a Jarier company and Jarier bookstore, and we have different other businesses at the same time. Jarier company and Jarier bookstore, of course, we make a kind of merging for these two businesses, and was kind of reluctance or hesitance to do this kind of merging. And we thought that it was a little like problematic for us. My brothers, of course, didn't well understand how the risks might affect this. Of course, in 2003, it has become, of course, it has become in the exchange stock market. And at that time, we became with our partners. For example, we have more partners outside the family, so it has become for us a challenge. Why? Well, simply because we need to think deeply and more seriously, because every quarter we have different results. If people make more profit, they will be very much happy. If otherwise, they will be unhappy. So there are challenges actually, and we started thinking very consciously and focus more on the job. And our commitment, of course, increased more and more, because two people officially work, but yeah, 30% of their time like spent their time on Jarier bookstore. Of course, we made a lot of money, and we started developing bookstore companies and other affiliations and other contributions in 2004. And our business of Jarier for development and for Jarier real estate and Jarier started snowballing or ballooning. These are some of the challenges over the same almost period of time. The red line down, the dotted red line, we started what is known as, we started creating or establishing the constitution or the law of the family, known as Al-Aqil family constitution. We worked with lawyers, law firms or attorney firms, and we started updating the laws, the regulations. So it was such a big change for us to make our own business more institutionalized, so that the different Aqil family businesses will not come to a standstill once one of the partners passes away or dies, like without being impacted over the last 4 or 5 years. That is why the regulations of the company or the corporate laws of the company, the corporate laws grew and developed more and more in comparison with the previous years. Therefore, this is a business that has no end. Every year you need to look at it and you need to update it. You know, you have to consider or reconsider, and there are some arguments or challenges that you have considered. Ever since 2000 or as of 2005 onwards, one of them is my niece. He worked in one of the banks, and later we have taken him into one of the businesses, Al-Aqil businesses, and another one, a female worker of the family members, of course, from 3 up to 5 years. Once promoted or upgraded, of course, he will be given or delegated to another position, because you know that he or she cannot work with the father, because you know, emotion, it is very important. We need to avoid involving people emotionally. So a father and a son or a daughter cannot work in the same company, as it is something that helps us to reduce risks. So the second generation has started 2006. So we started bringing some of the generation members by and by. Then so some like 4-6 family members started to work in different companies, and some other second generation members started their own businesses and opened their own businesses, like such as an industry or a club or a restaurant. So some people started their own businesses, and I think this is something like a success that we feel proud of. So this is our journey ever since we started its inception, until now. I am very proud of. So can we move on to the next slide, or the final slide, please? The final slide, please. Of course, the governance of business. So we make it a condition for us. We make it a condition that no other partners can be engaged in other management or administration, but some of them did, of course, but we started like a board of directors, and some of them of the founders, some others of the second generations, and through the councils of the board of directors, and because of their age or their experience, some others cannot be in the board of directors, some others can be like in the middle line management or administration. But again, at the same time, some businesses, the management is run not by the family members. If you look at the left, this is like the council of the board of the directors. Every year we go 2 days outside the office to review the companies, and we bring some of the second generation members. Some like sons and daughters are invited 1-2 years, of course, after they are engaged, after they graduate or after they get engaged. So the family investment office, and also the education consultancy, and the social family activities as a conservative family, and we live next to each other. That is why we almost always feel each other. And also we provide training and on-the-job training, and based on our majors or disciplines or specializations, either all of them or many of them, they like to work also outside the family business, such as like insurance companies or accounting companies or investment companies, even before they join us, to reduce risk, which of course helps us to reduce risk, because it is not good, it's not healthy to receive people, for example, recently graduated from university without any experience, and sometimes they feel that they are ready, but again at the same time they have like no experience. So, but honestly speaking, to solve the problem, for example, we need to help them, we need to provide them training, and we need to give them motivations, for example, so that we don't want to scare them off. That is why we keep them around, like train them, provide them with support, and they need to like try. We need to support. Sometimes they lose, sometimes they win, but again, at the same time, we need to control them. I need to have them under control. At the same time, if they lose, we don't feel very sad, and if they do so different times, we need to guide them well. But again, at the same time, such kind of attempts or tries different times give them a kind of power, kind of push, a kind of encouragement, whether by the parents, by the father and the mother, or by the uncles and aunts. But at the same time, we try always to support them. Consequently, or at the end of the day, we try to create an ecosystem outside the business or the family businesses. Yeah, we want them to go to other businesses, but some of them cannot. So they like don't have any kind of wish or desire to be engaged in other businesses. But at the same time, for example, if someone, for example, likes to be a professor, or to be a teacher, or to be a swimmer, or to be whatever it be, or engineer, that's okay. Most important to be successful, to be happy. But again, we have always to have a wish or a desire to run or manage businesses in support and contribute and communicate with the family members. We think that we succeeded 60, 70, 80%. But I believe also no more about like if you succeed 60, 70% with the family members, I do consider myself successful, and we are very much satisfied. Nothing is complete or ideal. This is what I wanted to share with you. I am sorry if I overstay my welcome. Thank you very so much. So I am done. I am done. Thank you very so much. Your attention, high appreciation. Thank you very so much for your contribution, and thanks for this rich experience. And we did learn a lot. I'd like to move on to the discussion panel. We have so many questions running into the floor, running into the chat room, and I would like to also seize the opportunity to drop these questions, but I will leave the floor to Mr. Talal. He has a lot of questions. I may ask some couple of questions if we have time to do so. Please, the floor is yours, Mr. Talal. I'd like to thank you ever so much and express my appreciation to you, Abu Abdul Karim, for sharing this excellent and rich experience with us, with the different family businesses. I have so many questions, and I believe these questions are not of my concern, but also of everyone's concern or interest. So many people or participants did ask or really would like to know more about the family business sectors. And a good example is to follow is Jarier bookstore, and has been like listed in the stock exchange market. And I did notice over your journey or progression, you talked about the creation of the family constitution or law, which of course has been in operation, has been in action for about 12 years, ever since 1996 up to 2008. Can we consider this as a source of optimism, or does it make us feel like more optimistic, like when we have a family business constitution law? So can you elaborate a little more on how you have created this family business constitution, which has been adopted by the family members? First of all, speaking of the law or the constitution is very important, because part of which is optionals, but the idea itself, the scale, I didn't use my scale well because it depends on the ideas. In 1996, we agreed 1 year before, or even before 2000, we agreed on this. There are some points we signed, and sometimes it went through different amendments or modifications over the last years, a big part of which, of course, have been big part of which, of course, has been removed or has been amended over the last 4 years, particularly, and part of which, of course, has been updated or removed. But again, at the same time, there is a kind of agreement on the loans for the children, for the sons, the daughters in their businesses, how like they can be engaged in the businesses, I mean sons and daughters. So this is something that this is something of the most important points of the law or the constitution. There are other laws or other like the exit agreements, for example, but also we have created and developed this. Like we were very careful and cautious about the exit agreement after the death of our father. Of course, the exit agreement was or has gone through different amendments, but at the same time, like the corporate contracts or agreements go through different amendments or modifications. So I don't want to scare people off when it comes to the law of the family businesses. Let's say that it is the most important points which are similar and which are dissimilar, and the exit and the entry agreements are the most important points that should come into place or should come into play. But again, sometimes, as I say, some points like cannot be put into application or implementation. At the end of the day, businesses look very much similar, and the key solution is to make the laws and the agreements clear-cut, crystal clear with the partners, and of course, the DNA should allow for more laws of constitution. I see some other brothers, and they started like saying that they can develop and create their laws of the family businesses, but when it came to reality or when it came to practice, they had a lot of difficulties. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it will be so much helpful and seminal. Thank you ever so much, Abdul Karim, and I believe based on what you said, it depends on the nature of the agreements or contracts with the partners. It plays, or such agreements and contracts play a role in sustainability of the business families. There should be also resilience. There should be flexibility or resilience. One more question that is we always think of by the participants or those interested in family business across the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. You have been successful with long-term contracts and agreements. Do you believe that more family businesses, traditional family businesses, not necessarily as big as Jarier Bookstore, but over the coming years, do you think that such family businesses or new family businesses will come into play or will come into reality, or the business models will change in line with the business models or with the business partnerships, because we have different like entrepreneurships who invest in different entities using different financing tools at the beginning of the business, might not need a lot of support from the family business. So the question is, do you think that the traditional business model will be the same or will continue in the future? All this traditional mode will no longer exist, or we will have a new model, or a traditional model will not be effective in the future? And based on your own experience and expertise and based on our communication, and I'm pretty sure that based on your experience and expertise, you have dealt with different businesses, some of which of course continued and some of which of course departed the market. So this is a good question. I'd like to provide some answers. So it depends on the partners and the regulations and laws. And generally speaking, of course, have been amended or have been modified, and there might be a new kind of system, which of course helped a lot. And I do believe also the entrepreneurs, of course, the new entrepreneurs will, if they are not equal to the traditional or the older entrepreneurs, they will be much better because of education, because of the opportunities of learning from the best practices. And I believe that the new entrepreneurs will be like stronger, more organized. No, I'm very much optimistic for them, and I believe that, I am very much optimistic, and I believe that the family businesses will be more and more, and their sustainability will be more and more and higher.
إن شاء الله صراحة يعني
Hopefully, we hope so. I'd like to leave the floor to Dr. Hanouf. Thank you ever so much, Mr. Talal. I have a couple of questions before we leave the floor to the public, but let me just walk you through the research studies, and you know that particularly when it comes to the family business. And one more important point I was attracted to, there is a body of research studies about the family businesses due to the history, due to, say, the background, due to the cooperation, coordination of the family members. And this is something that makes different families, of course, might have difficulties taking or making decisions about offering their companies in the public. So my question to you, Mr. Mohammed, how in your case, for example, did you manage to take or to make such decisions? Or in other words, how did you deal with the emotional side or emotive side of the family, and you managed to overcome this kind of emotions even though it does exist in different other families?
First, there's no finance market. There was no finance market in the past. It was just manual trading and exchange. So
واضح ان احنا في كانت عدة اهداف مكملة
we were
للاستدامة.
part of this market, and this market was a complementary market to the sustainability when we converted the company. First, it was the elimination of risks. We didn't know if those
مجلس
people,
إدارة
board
لجد
of directors,
تدقيق
would work
وهذا
together
وشركاء.
because they didn't know each other. We had different partners and we had the auditing. We had a lot of organization to do. Secondly, the goal behind that process was the results. After an effort of 20 years, we needed some profit, we needed some revenue to expand our work and to use it personally. So we had a number of reasons. The third reason, which was part of the speech, is that when you have other partners with you, the company has a higher probability for profits, has a much higher probability for profits.
يعني يصير أكثر بكثير نتائجها. فبالتالي يعني ليش؟ لأنه لما يكون معك
Why? Because if you have other partners, for example, the value of the company has doubled more than 10 times since we had it in the public offering. That was very beneficial for us. If you have 70 million or 700 million, that is a big difference. If it were just between us, it would have been different, but having partners and having other people gives you higher responsibility, gives you I'm just talking about the conversion to a company, to a publicly offered company. It was the safest solution. If possible, it's the safest and the best solution. It's one of the fastest and one of the best because it makes the company known to people, and it makes it known that you are working well. Thank you very much. I don't know if this was a good answer. Of course, I see your experience as a very beneficial experience with a lot of brave decisions. I congratulate you on that, and I believe it takes a lot that a family reaches this level. I have another question. in your presentation, you discussed a lot of the procedures and the steps you took in your family business to make it a corporate business. You've done a lot. And Mr. Muhammad, today, where are the risks? Where do you see your risks, since you are advanced in this journey and you're ahead? How do you find your concerns? We can have an answer so that other people can benefit from your experience in this sense. Yes. In a publicly offered company, there is a natural high risk because the partners have more than the family has. They have over 50%, which means they have a higher authority. There is an internally offered company. There is another type which has partners, and in my vision, in my own thinking, those are successful by 70 or 80%, and I believe that most of the companies in the next 20 years will succeed and will grow. But you know, sometimes companies are delayed to success. Sometimes they take time. So 70%, of course. Thank you. We have a lot of questions for you, but we will leave the room for the audience. So now we will move to the audience Q&A. I have many questions. We will start with the first one. It says, how to secure the separation of ownership from management? This is a question that is important. We see it a lot. How can we separate ownership and authority or administration? How can we achieve this? In terms of the instructions, the current systems in the companies are excellent. Why? Because you can make a company without previous profits, and you can have the votes of the partners separated by division. So if you have someone with a strange opinion with only 10 or 15% of the company percentage, they could not take their decision into effect because they own only a minor proportion of the company. But let's say if the vote in the company goes by 60-70% on something, then it's inevitable that we have to do that. But authority, as you know, authority is connected with the ownership, and the connection between the inheritors or between the partners is another issue which could be solved with distributing or redistributing the portions. And now we'll move to the next question. The question is about the second generation, the next generations. This is a concern we know a lot of families have because a large part of them is facing issues with the movement from the second generation to the third generation. The question is, what are the most important pillars that the current generation has to transfer or pass to the next generation, the principles or the pillars? I would have liked it if they can transfer everything, but let's stick to the minimum. The minimum is maybe the relationship between family members, or let's say I have dreams and I wish to pass everything to my children, but I don't know what is possible to achieve. And if honestly, I can't answer this question. So for me, I would say maybe the values are very important in keeping the family together. So if you can talk a little bit about values that can be transferred from generation to another, which helps the sustainability of the company if the family stays close. And from your experience, we know that the family is united unlike many other families that are in courts and that are suing each other. So the question is the values in particular. What values do you think are important?
وأنجح وأفود اجتماعيا وماليا
The, I think unity is much more important and better than separation. All parents would like their children to be united. Sometimes this is taken seriously, sometimes it is not taken into consideration, and it is just a dream or a wish. But again, unity, cooperation, tolerance, those are important values, Islamic values, international values, in fact. So those are the best values: integrity, honesty, love for each other, and love for other people to benefit as much as you're benefiting. All those values are different from one to another, but of course parents would like their children to have the best values possible. So I also don't know what to answer with. No, in fact your answer was very good and is sufficient. Maybe I'll move to another question since we have a bit of time. One of the audience was asking, what was the most difficult obstacle you faced in the company since its launching, and how could you overcome that obstacle in your journey? Honestly, the most important challenges were the interference of family members, children, siblings, mothers. We try to involve them, but we have to involve them when they are trained, when they have the experience. Otherwise, they will just enter into the work without experience, and that would be an obstacle. So everyone thinks that their children are excellent, but this has to be proven because it has high risk, because everyone thinks the same way. You have to think about others just as you think about yourself.
ما
You have to
يعني
consider
عواقب عادية يعني
uh,
عادية جدا. أكثر نقطة خطورة عندما
the
كانوا يعني الناس
point with the highest risk is when our children were 16, 17, hitting puberty, hitting teenage years, because at that time they think they are limitless. They want cars, they want new things, they have demands, but with time they learn, they calm down, they grow wiser, and the crucial thing was that our part of our money was transferred for public offering, which meant lower risk. Thanks to this public offering, the work got better. It, it grew much better because of our partners. If you want more money, give to other people, it's good. If you want to solve your children's problem, keep the money and solve your children's problem. Thank you. And I understand from your answers that a lot of the focus was on the family, and this is in the past it was not much focused on, but now since I've been talking with family businesses, that in the past days the focus was on business, business, business. But as you are explaining, I see that much of the challenge comes from the family part and dealing with the new generations. This kind of difficulties is faced by a lot of people. And thank you for those fruitful answers. I have a question from my side. I would like it if you talk to us about establishing the business or the business side. Many people don't know that the family businesses in Saudi Arabia are still working in the traditional manner. In our work with family businesses, we didn't see much processes, procedures, structures, manuals. we see some kind of randomness in how they operate day-to-day business, and this causes much difficulty on the ground when we're working with families, because we see that it's not easy. It is dependent on a cultural change, and you have to transform the culture before you move the business from a traditional scheme to a corporate scheme. So if you provide us with some of your experience on this. I am lucky that my partners are brothers, and also I was lucky to have access to international experience, and lucky to have other partners. If sometimes you when you are at ease with other partners, that becomes one of the good factors for your company. You have to have good documents, you have to have good communication. Generally in the region, and especially in the kingdom, the transformation to organized corporate work has accelerated within the last years. And honestly, I would say if someone has money, if someone has business, and this person cannot operate, cannot organize, cannot transform the work into a corporate business, at some point, this person will get to a close end, to a dead end. And but on the other hand, some people are administratively simple, but they still make a lot of profit and a lot of success. So let's say that we should not take the organization up to a very complicated point, which is over the need, and we set up a policy procedure with them, and then it's not implemented. If it's not in the house at that point, and if it's not practically applied, then it's just useless. Some things are attached to administration, to the general concept. If your vision is limited, you can get to a limited or to a mediocre success. But I don't think that anything succeeds out of the blue. Someone has to go take courses, has to go learn. Should we take courses? Yes, we should take courses. Yes, you should, even if you're old, even if you're in your 50s. This has to do with someone's vision, the way a family deals with business, the capabilities of the administration and the establishment. Sometimes when the administration is good, some families just bring secondary employees to be assistants, and someone is in fact in charge. No, but some people, on the other hand, take capable people, which lead them to further success. That depends on how the business owner wants to manage their business. So I believe, yes, the solution is not some kind of papers that we set on the shelf and they have the policies, the procedures, etc. But it has to do with the behavior. It has to do with how the people on this organization operate and how they apply what's in the papers. In fact, Mr. Muhammad, it is very enjoyable to talk to you, but due to time limits, we would leave the room for further questions, and then we will conclude the session. Mr. Talal, do you have any questions or comments? In fact, Mr. Muhammad has answered sufficiently and has talked sufficiently. The session was inspiring and important, starting with the idea that the sustainability of a family business is an effortful process. It takes time, it takes work. The business has to protect itself from the inside. And then he said an important point. He said the DNA. He said the relationship that links family members within this business is the main pillar for the sustainability and continuity of this business. I find myself obliged to say that if you have a family business, if you have a family business and they say, give us a piece of advice, I'm sure that in your career, you have a lot of people come to you and ask for advice because you are experienced. Can you give us some advice that we will benefit from and utilize in family businesses in particular? I just advise that family businesses or individual companies have a very clear process for exit. Exits have to be secured before entrances, and there are in addition there are other elements, but let's focus on the exit because how the evaluation will be managed, how the exit will be managed, how the judges will judge, and who the judges will be. As I have mentioned, this is the right after my father passed away, we managed some things. We managed some exit procedures and policies. We enhanced that and we improved the exit policies. And also, we managed how family members will operate. Are they granted or secured in their positions? In my opinion, positions should not be secured. Those are some points only, but of course, some experts such as the Dr. Hanouf can give you further advice on this. We learn from you, Doctor. Thank you very much.
I would like to also to emphasize or stress one more thing, because everything was so important, but one more thing, which is the exit agreement. I do agree with you. There should be a mechanism that is clear-cut or crystal clear for the exit agreement for the family businesses and for the family members, because sometimes things may go smoothly, immaculately, seamlessly, but conflicts or dispute might arise or might crop up when family members may think of like terminating a kind of agreement or partnership. This is something that we need to dwell on or to explain a bit further more on. Now, as Dr. Khaloud started with us, I'd like her to bring the session to an end. I'd like to thank and express my appreciation for Muhammad Abdurrahman Al-Aqil. Please, the floor is yours. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Muhammad, Mr. Talal. Thank you very so much. It is an inspirational session. I did learn a lot, but let me just conclude. We have some good takeaways. We have to start as early as possible. We have to think of the family members rather than just the business. The journey is so long, onerous, but the earlier we start, the better. The earlier we start, the more able we become to reduce risks. Because if, like, for example, if brothers much better when like partners are like, for example, if problems are solved in the first generations, problems will not come up or crop up in the second or the third generation. So things or risks, problems will not have more problems. The generation, the next generation is always very important to receive or to take the business or the family business almost problem-free, so that they don't have to struggle or don't have to establish the disputes. We have to start early as much as possible. We've seen this in the images. These are some learned lessons that we always take, but at the same time, Mr. Muhammad has presented this are very important, and we've seen so much. And also he presented so many ideas that what I've seen on the ground. Mr. Muhammad has provided like good and rich and in-depth expertise. Thank you so much, and your attention I appreciate it, and we hope that the audience or participant did benefit, and we hope to see you over and again. I hope that this is not the final or the last meeting. Thank you ever so much. Your attention is highly appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Talal. Thank you very much.